Hello and welcome to another episode of Broadcast Transformers Talk. I've finally gotten around to seeing most of the episodes of Power of the Primes, and now I want to talk about what I thought about it. So, there will be spoilers for the show, you have been warned. So before the episode starts, there's a fancy opening sequence that reveals the title of the show. The sequence is a bit long. It's not that terrible at all. So starting with episode 1, we start with Megatronus out somewhere on Cybertron. He's looking for the Requiem Blaster to complete some ritual, which we will know more in later episodes what that is. And he mentions that what he's doing is not something he would demean himself to do if he was not doing this for you. At this point in time, we don't know who Megatronus is talking about. Then we go to a flashback in which Megatronus is talking to Solus Prime. Megatronus happens to be carrying the Requiem Blaster on his back in this scene. Note also that Megatronus identifies Solus Prime as his love, which is not something that I have known that there was any kind of relationship between Megatronus and Solus Prime. They talk about defeating Unicron using the Requiem Blaster. Solus Prime wants to destroy it as it's a very powerful weapon, especially in the wrong hands, but Megatronus really doesn't want her to destroy it, and he's really adamant about this too. Then we come back to Megatronus in the present, and he's burnt the swamp and couldn't find the Requiem Blaster, but he's not giving up. Then we go to Megatron, Windblade, Perceptor, and Victorion, who are also in the swamp looking to get the Requiem Blaster before Megatronus does. They're interrupted when the Dinobots come out, and Grimlock introduces all the Dinobots to our team. Grimlock talks about all the fighting that's been going on and blames it all on Megatron. Megatron tells him that it's not his fault. Grimlock rams him, sends him flying in the air, leaving Windblade, Perceptor, and Victorion to fight the Dinobots. Seems like they defeat the Dinobots, but then all the Dinobots combine into Volcanicus. This was a pretty good start for this series. I'm glad they went for a more serious tone for the show, that there is a sense of something going wrong at any moment. I like that they show what happened between Megatronus and Solus Prime, because without that, Megatronus's motives would have not made any sense. We don't know who it is that he keeps talking to, but we'll find out soon enough. Volcanicus looks cool in the animation, but there are things that are different, like how Grimlock's Dino head doesn't stick out far like it does on the toy, and his feet are gold and not black in combined mode, which is fine since I like the black better. But his fists only have 2 spikes that are gold colored, and the toy has 3 that are black like the rest of the fists and the feet. But I guess they have to save some money on the toy somehow, and paint is usually the area they cut down on. So then we go to episode 2, which starts with our group in front of Volcanicus, and so they begin to fight. Windblade calls out Victorion for angering the Dinobots enough to make them combine, and Windblade is right here. She's right. But Victorion doesn't seem to care, so she just brushes it off. Perceptor says they need to find Megatron if they are going to survive the fight. We go to Megatron, who sees a light and begins to follow it. We go to Overlord and Rodimus Kron fighting Menasor and Devastator. The point of this fight is that Overlord has some vendetta against Megatron that I don't remember them having in Titan's Return, but whatever. There's an interesting flashback to Overlord talking to Megatronus as a hologram inside the head of Unicron, and he's taking the Matrix of Chaos, which is what is inside of Rodimus Kron. Despite having a giant hole in his chest, Devastator and Menasor stand back up and go attack Overlord and Rodimus Kron, but it doesn't do anything as the two are much more powerful than the Combiners. We go back to Windblade, Perceptor, and Victorion trying to come up with a plan to separate Volcanicus. Their plan fails, but then unexpectedly Predaking shows up, and he's looking for the enigma of combination that he believes Victorion has, even though she doesn't. We then go back to Overlord and Rodimus Kron, who are torturing information out of Menasor, who ends up giving Megatron's location, but it doesn't matter because Rodimus Kron kills Devastator, and then Overlord kills Menasor. Another good episode here. I like that we slowly get to see how powerful Rodimus Kron is, as well as Overlord. I still don't know why he wants Megatron, but maybe we'll figure that out later. I didn't really care that they killed off Menasor and Devastator, but it was not something that had to be done. But they want to get through that Overlord and Rodimus Kron are not bots you want to mess with. Predaking looks really cool in the episode, and I'm really ready to see more of him. Now we are on to episode 3, and we open with Predaking fighting Victorion since he thinks she has the Enigma still. We go to Megatron, who has stumbled upon something that has a strange symbol on it, or multiple symbols. We go back to the fight against Predaking, and Perceptor comes out and tells him that he has it just to get Predaking to let go of Victorion. He has the Enigma. We then go to Megatronus at the Well of Allsparks. We get another flashback that sees Solus Prime and Megatronus again discussing the destruction of the Requiem Blaster. Seems that Solus was going to let him keep it, but she just will not, and they are both touching the blaster, and Megatronus accidentally fires it, which ends up killing Solus Prime. This is something that really gets to Megatronus, and we see that he really did care about Solus Prime. We go back out to our trio running away from Predaking and Volcanicus, Windblade saying that maybe they could get the two to turn on each other, but not actually doing anything to make that happen. They run until they find Megatron at the place that has the symbols of the primes. Megatron goes in and tells our trio to stay there and wait for him to come back, and that's the end. Of course, this was another good episode. This episode's flashback tells us that Megatron is talking to Solus Prime in the previous episodes, and that he still has some regret for accidentally killing her. Now we are on to episode 4, and we pick up with our crew trapped outside of this mysterious place. Windblade, Perceptor, and Victorion are face-to-face with Volcanicus and Predaking. Perceptor tries to tell Predaking that they don't have the Enigma, but he thinks they are lying and attacks. Then Volcanicus and Predaking are fighting. We go inside the place where Megatron walks farther inside to find the Requiem Blaster. A door behind the blaster opens and a bot walks out, and to my surprise, it's Optimus Primal. Megatron tries to talk to him, and then attempts to take the Requiem Blaster, and Primal tells him to leave or else. Then Primal and Megatron begin to fight, and Megatron realizes that Primal is like someone he knew. We go back outside to see our trio trying to get in, and Predaking defeats, not kills, but defeats Volcanicus and pushes past Perceptor and Windblade, and is going for Victorion when Megatron walks out with the Requiem Blaster, threatens Predaking, and tells him they don't have the Enigma, and this time Predaking believes Megatron. They all stare at the Requiem Blaster. Then a blue circle shoots out, and then Optimus Primal tells them they need to go to the Athenaeum Sanctorum. I butchered that name. And they ask who he is, and the episode ends after he says that he's Optimus Primal. Again, good episode. I find that one thing that they don't really touch upon is how powerful these combiners are supposed to be. Like, how is it that Predaking is more powerful than Volcanicus, or was it just luck that he was able to beat them down? Getting to see Primal in the animation is very nice, and I like who they picked for his voice actor as well. Then we start episode 5 with the Dinobots minus Grimlock finding Overlord and Rodimus Kron. Rodimus Kron knows they're being watched, and then the two attack the 4 Dinobots, and they beat the information out of the Dinobots as to where Megatron is. Rodimus Kron, or in this instance, Unicron, tells Overlord of the place that Megatron will be, and then he kills Sludge just out of the blue. We go to our crew trying to find the Athenaeum Sanctorum. Primal explains to Windblade why he gave Megatron the blaster, and it was a touching bit on how Megatron's character has changed throughout this trilogy. Perceptor finds out the puzzle, and Megatron opens a door. This weird music plays that makes you feel both uncertain and mysterious at the same time. They find a computer that shows them Megatronus's killing of Solus Prime and how the other primes took the Requiem blaster and that Primal was chosen by the gods to look after the blaster. Then Overlord and Rodimus Kron show up and fight, and Rodimus Kron kills Victorion by removing her head. Then Overlord goes right for Megatron, and the episode ends. I don't think I have to tell you that I enjoyed this episode. I find it odd still that now we are at the point that Overlord is facing down Megatron, and we still don't know why he's after Megatron. Hopefully the next episode will provide some context towards Overlord's vendetta against Megatron. Alright, here we go with episode 6. This starts with more fighting between our crew against Overlord and Rodimus Kron. Windblade tries to get Hot Rod to come out of Rodimus Kron, but is really failing. Perceptor stands there being useless as always, but then sees the Requiem blaster right there at his feet. We go to Overlord going all out on Megatron until Perceptor walks up there with the Requiem blaster, which gave Megatron enough time to stand up. There's some vehicle mode combat, which is cool, seeing Megatron in tank form, fighting Overlord in tank form as well. Grimlock steps in to get beat up, and then Primal takes the blaster and is going to leave when Windblade stops and tries to convince him to stay, but it doesn't appear to work. Megatron gets in a fight with Rodimus Kron. Rodimus Kron says a very interesting thing to Megatron, saying that his resistance is impressive, and that maybe some of Unicron still is in him from when he was Galvatron. Then there's more fighting, and Windblade gets beat up real bad, as does Megatron. Rodimus Kron is about to finish Megatron when Overlord steps in and wants to do it himself. Megatron stalls Overlord long enough for Primal to toss him the Requiem blaster and Megatron to fire it, and thus the episode ends. Good episode. Really loved all the good action that happened. I really would have liked to see Overlord in the fight more and see what other moves he has, but it's okay, I guess. Now we have episode 7 that starts with getting to see the pure amount of devastation the Requiem blaster caused from one shot. You can even hear it in the music. It had that holy shit, you actually did it feel to it. So now Overlord is dead and Rodimus Kron is assumed to be dead. Everyone is happy Megatron saved them, and they mourn over Victorion a little bit, and then Perceptor, the helpful bot, he's been in that fight, kind of berates Windblade and Megatron for destroying the computer with all the Prime's knowledge, but is able to figure out Megatronus' plan anyway. Then Megatronus appears and makes short work of Megatron, Grimlock, and Primal. Then Rodimus Kron gets up, still alive, now fully Unicron, spouting the Matrix must be destroyed. Megatronus literally does one big flame attack, takes the Requiem blaster, and leaves. They realize that Unicron is going to seek out and destroy the Matrix of leadership, and that if they want to stop him, they may have to kill what once was Rodimus Prime / Hot Rod. Now, Windblade was not happy with this for all of 3 minutes, but once Megatron, Primal, and Perceptor all agree, then she agrees with them as well. We get some more good character stuff from Megatron. Then Windblade says he will lead them, and Megatron's like, I'm not a leader, but then Windblade's like, we've been following you the whole time. And Megatron's like, fine, I'll lead you. And then the episode ends. Episode 8 starts with our crew in a room with squares all over the walls and stuff. I have no idea where they are. We go to the Well of Sparks, where Megatron appears to put the Requiem blaster on the same thing where the Matrix of Leadership and Enigma of Combination are, and it makes a big power drain that is felt through all of anywhere that there's a transformer. Our crew keeps going, and then we go back to Megatronus, who meets up with our crew finally. They all start to fight Megatronus, and Megatron speaks to the currently forming Solus Prime, who asks what is happening to her, and Megatron flat out tells her. Seeing Solus Prime, Megatronus gets a sudden boost to fling off Grimlock and Primal and set those two and Windblade on fire, I think. Megatron is the last bot standing. The conversation is very interesting because Megatronus basically calls Megatron a failure unworthy of sharing his name. Then Megatron pulls the classic, I can beat you because I'm Megatron, and now you've pissed me off because we've not had enough of that in this show. Anyway, Megatronus is about to engage Megatron when Rodimuscron shows up and gets bigger. Not making this up. He literally mass shifts to make himself look like the toy version of Rodimus Unicronus, and then the episode ends. So then we come to episode 9. This episode starts with Megatronus about to face down the now fully Unicron-possessed Rodimuscron. Then Unicron begins to fight, saying that he's come to destroy the Matrix of Leadership, and then he and Megatronus fight. Windblade, Perceptor, and Grimlock are freed from whatever fire thing Megatronus had them under. Megatron attacks the stand thing that the Requiem Blaster, Matrix Leadership, and Enigma of Combination were on, and that really makes Megatronus angry. Primal tells them to keep fighting. Grimlock says that he likes the new Optimus, and then Windblade joins the fight while, as usual, Perceptor stands back and doesn't help them fight. Primal then takes a hold of the Matrix of Leadership as Megatronus unleashes a powerful attack. The Matrix creates a shield around them. He says that the Matrix speaks to him, and Perceptor tells Primal that it has chosen him, and then the Matrix transforms Primal into Optimal Optimus, that one that looks like the weirdly colored toy version. Unicron is pissed now and tackles Optimal and just punches the shit out of him. Optimal stops Unicron's punches and then blasts him, saying that Transformers no longer fear him. They begin to fight, and then the episode ends. Episode 10, the final episode, begins with Optimal and Unicron fighting. Megatronus is really pissed, saying that they cost him everything, and just as he's about to fire, Predaking comes crashing down on Megatronus. Optimal beats down Unicron, and then Perceptor says that he needs to remove the Matrix of Chaos, so Optimal pries his chest apart to do just that. We go back to Megatronus battling Predaking, and Megatronus gets a chokehold. It removes Predaking's head, killing him. Then Megatronus sees that Megatron is close to Solus Prime, who tells Megatronus to come over here. She gets really big and pink, and then says that all the suffering he's making, she can tell that he still loves her, and he says that his love for her will never diminish. And then she says, well, you still killed me. And then a bright light and Megatronus and Solus disappear. Then Megatron's eyes are glowing, and the Matrix of Chaos floats over, demanding that Galvatron return to him. The now freed Hot Rod says that Unicron needs a new host. We get all the classic 1986 Megatron quotes, like I belong to nobody, and nobody summons Megatron. Megatron tries to resist the Matrix of Chaos, but Optimal knows that the only way this will end is by ending Megatron's life with the Requiem Blaster, and that is just what they do. Optimal fires the blaster, and then Megatron and the Matrix of Chaos are no more. Suddenly, from the Well of All Sparks, a hand that belongs to the thought-to-be-dead Optimus Prime. The episode ends with Optimus Prime telling us what Windblade, Grimlock, and Hot Rod are doing now after they defeated Unicron and Megatronus. Prime asks Optimal what his plans are, and Optimal says to lead Cybertron into an era of peace, and then the episode and the series ends. I have to say that I really enjoyed this series. The animation never really got better or worse since Combiner Wars, so I suppose that's good, but I'm glad that the episodes got longer and everything else that was bad about Combiner Wars and Titans Return was basically fixed in Power of the Primes. Megatron is really the only character that undergoes any major development. It was cool having Mark Hamill do the voice of Megatronus, and I thought it was a perfect fit and was good with his character. Power of the Primes, in my opinion, is a good show that is better than the previous two shows, and I think that if I were rating it out of 10, I'd give it a 7 out of 10. That's all I have to say, so if you want to add to the conversation, leave a comment below. As always, thanks for listening, and goodbye.